My Action Research Project, Advisory Program in a Middle School. Now, why is there a need for an advisory program in a middle school? Think about elementary school. Students generally are in a self-contained classroom with one or two teachers sort of looking over them and teaching them the majority of their subjects for the entire day. Suddenly there's a jump to middle school. No really home base or homeroom teacher to look after them throughout the day, and middle school students can have between 5, 7, even more different teachers in a school day or on a schedule, which can be overwhelming. With that, and teachers having student workloads of 80 to 120 kids seen on a regular day, students and teachers have difficulties in middle school settings to build relationships with one another, which makes it a recipe for students to begin to fall through the cracks beginning in middle school. Importance of an advisory program. Why is it important? Many reasons. First of all, middle school can be a tricky time for students, both emotionally and socially. Building new identities, they become separate from their parents and siblings and sometimes friends. It's a time for self-discovery, pushing boundaries, and it's not uncommon for some students to really find more challenges and because of all these changes. And the advisory program in a middle school can ensure that each student has an adult that they are comfortable with and talking to about their challenges. Offer support, offer an ear, and also advice to get through some of these challenges that they are facing. Some of the challenges include shifting friendships, conflict resolution, appropriately expressing emotions, changes in family life at home, academics, having a positive role model at school, and having someone to talk to. So my investigative question was this: would an advisory program in a middle school help support lower achieving students, and then how much too? I know that most likely an advisory program would most likely help a majority of kids, including the non-at-risk students. But for this particular action research, we're going to focus on the at-risk students. Some contextual factors about the school I am at. It's an all-boys college preparatory private Catholic school that houses grades 5 through 12 and is located in the suburbs of upstate New York. It's a military school starting in grade 9 through grade 12. We have students that come from over 40 different districts in the surrounding area, sometimes 30 to 45 minutes away. The middle school houses about 250 to 275 students a year, grades 5 through 8th. Tuition averages between around $12,000, with 80% of our population receiving financial aid. It's a 16 to 1 student-teacher ratio, 1 to 1 Chromebook program. Our parents are very invested in the school, and our faculty too. It works outside of school with coaching, tutoring, shows up at games, so they're very supportive of the school as well. 12% of our school population has an IEP or 504. Our IEPs are supported by the local public school district that we are in. They send 2.1 special education teachers over to our school to service the IEPs, and they do that in a self-contained classroom. Some demographics: 77% of our student population is white, 17% black, 2% Hispanic and Asian, 1% other. Target at-risk students. I wanted to focus mostly on the 7th and 8th graders. The data that will be collected that we collect about these students will be the at-risk students, will be the main focus of this particular study. At-risk students were determined by collecting data from previous year's attendance report cards, standardized test scores from New York State, report cards, administrative referrals from the previous year, but also teacher feedback. Approximately 25 students fell into the category deemed at-risk students. Here are the requirements for students being placed in the at-risk category. Students who failed one or more classes from the previous school year. Student yearly GPA from the previous year that was 74% or under. Students that missed 15 or more school days from the previous school year. Students that scored a 1 on the New York State exam in ELA or math. Or students who have recorded 5 or more office referrals from the previous year. If any student fell into one or more of these categories, we put them in the at-risk category for our subgroup of research. In what ways could an advisory program help at-risk students? First, we hope that it helps increase student attendance. And this would be done by meeting with the advisor if attendance becomes an issue. If you build a relationship with school and home, a lot of times students will attend school more. A lot of this I got from the literature reviews from previous schools that implemented the advisory program. Decrease incomplete schoolwork. That kind of goes hand in hand with student attendance. A lot of times when kids want to miss school, it's because they're behind and they don't want to deal with the overwhelming workload from not being in school. Work more closely with parents. The advisory program aim too is to build rapport with parents at home. That advisor becomes more of a liaison between home and school. Set up supports at school. So if a student is struggling in math or science, the advisor has a certain protocol or certain steps that they can take to help support the student, whether it's encouraging them to helping them find a tutor, meeting with the teacher with them to figure out a time where they can get extra help. Help student self-advocacy. During this time, middle school students tend to hide in the weeds too often, and they are afraid or don't know how to advocate for themselves if something is going wrong. If Johnny is struggling in math, we want Johnny to, by the end of the advisory program, to be able to advocate for themselves, go see the math teacher, and get the necessary help to have success. And lastly, too, and it kind of goes with all 6 of these, is assist with social and emotional issues. If the student isn't feeling confident in school or happy with themselves, chances are they're not doing well academically, not caring about the schoolwork, and they struggle. If there's any issues at school between friends, teachers, or issues at home, we hope that the advisor can help with those issues with the student. Now, how would the advisor program work? Each teacher assigned 9 to 11 students at the beginning of the school year. They will remain with that teacher the entire school year. The teacher would meet with the group 1 to 2 times a week as a group. The school would have to build in 15, 20, even 30-minute block times into the master schedule so all teachers and students are free to meet with the advisor group. Teachers would lead discussions with the group at times. Topics would include, academic challenges, peer counseling, bullying issues, internet safety. It could be anything that's going on in the school at the time, vaping, anything that just getting the kids to think about the issues that all middle school students have to deal with, and perhaps starting a dialogue among the students about that topic. Could also include, and would include, up and coming tests in math and science in any class, and what classes are hard and what classes are not so much. Also during the advisory program, if 1 or 2 students seems like they're struggling, the advisor then could find time to meet one-on-one with those students and figure out what's going on. When there is a problem that arises, and there will be, there's an advisory intervention. And advisory intervention could it's very broad. If a student is having a problem in math or science, it could just be simply as daily check-ins with the advisor, with the student. If they see Johnny in the hallway, the teacher could just simply ask, "Hey, how was your day? How was math? Did you do well on the quiz? Did you turn in your science homework?" Just a simple 30-second conversation is all it would take initially. The advisor would also be asked to track daily, weekly attendance and homework reports through PowerSchool and grades. We would ask the advisor to call home, meet with parents if there are issues that arise within schools, such as poor attendance, struggling in a particular class or two, issues with peers, or if they see signs of depression and anxiety. Anyone that's raised teenagers know approximately age 12, 13, 14, your kid tends to shut down about what goes on in school. You get the one-word answer when you ask every day at dinner, "How was school?" They usually answer fine and don't ever give much detail on anything. So with the advisor, they're the home eyes at school, and we hope that the advisor does develop a relationship with all parents during this time. Advisors will meet students and teachers. The advisor will meet with student and teacher in classes they're struggling with. For instance, the advisor would meet with Johnny and the math teacher if there is an ongoing issue in that class, and they would try to come up with a solution to that. Some goals. Goals to provide more in-school supports for at-risk students. Another goal is to develop a sense of self-advocacy by the end of the advisor program, getting students to speak for themselves, the confidence, the coaching to do that, to build relationships between students and teachers. From the data from the literature review shows that when students do build relationships with their teachers, referrals decrease and school attendance increases. Quickly identify students who are struggling academically or socially. Too often in middle schools, sometimes it's too late when a student is really falling through the cracks and having a difficult time. So a big goal of the advisory program is to identify these struggling students right away and make changes. Teacher training. It's utmost important to provide teacher training for teachers who are beginning the advisory program. Bringing outside help, outside workshops, focusing on the adolescent brain, motivating influences, and schools, bringing in people from schools that have actually implemented successful advisory programs. Providing faculty meetings once a month discussing the advisory program and student challenges, giving faculty members a chance to talk with one another about what they're dealing with and coming up with solutions collectively. It also encourages collaboration amongst faculty. Providing discussion questions for advisory groups to discuss with teacher feedback. This simply means that what a lot of schools had done was getting teachers to write up a lot of the advisory group questions or topics for the week, because teachers are generally on the front lines and they can understand and see what goes on a daily basis, more so than an administrator sometimes who is not in the classroom with the students. Literature review. 5 major themes in the literature review. I found 4 most useful for my school setting. One major theme was the advisory program can increase school attendance. Number 2, advisory program can decrease the altercations and fighting. I found this not as necessary for my particular school setting, but in the literature reviews that I did read that had this, the advisory program was more in urban, low-income inner-city schools, that they felt that this was a direct need for their particular school with the advisory program. Advisory program can quickly identify struggling students. Theme 4, the advisory program can help students work through more personal issues during the early teen years. And number 5, the advisory program can help bridge the gap between home and school. So those are the 5 major themes overall that I found in my lit review. Data collection tools. Attendance reports. Advisors will have access to weekly, monthly, and quarterly attendance reports in all classes. They will have access to grades, quarterly, weekly, semester grades, and the number of missing assignments in each of their classes through PowerSchool. We will use teacher feedback, but also parent feedback, student survey, and lastly, we'll have a focus group of students who were in the at-risk group to get their joint feedback. Data collection continue, and a lot of this stuff can be pulled from PowerSchool, which all teachers have access to. The question came up in one of my groups was, can you use standardized test scores as a data collection tool? I think at this point it's too early to do that, but it's something that we can look to if we implement this successfully and continue to do it. Student survey questions. I felt that the advisory program helped me. My advisor checked in on me regularly. I felt I could go to my advisor if I had a problem. I feel I did a better than expected job in middle school because of the advisory. I want to continue the advisory program, and basically strongly agree, and certain disagree, or strongly disagree. Parent survey is pretty much the same. I felt the advisory program helped my son transition. My son's advisor contacted me. My son spoke at home about his advisor. I felt more connected to the school. And lastly, I want to continue the advisory program. Teacher feedback, more of a narrative. Do you feel that the advisory program helped at-risk students? Did the at-risk students behave better in your classes because of the advisory program? Did the quality of work improve with at-risk students because of the advisory program? Do you feel you need more professional training, and what changes would you make? The reason why I wanted to move to a narrative for teacher feedback, because I wanted to give them the liberty to get creative with their writing instead of using a general survey. I wanted more detailed feedback from the teachers because they are the ones that are implementing it. This is simply my triangulation matrix, the data that I was using and how I would use it. What I learned from the literature review and through this whole process of looking at the advisory program from the different angles, from parent, from teacher, from administrator, and from student, I learned that a lot of middle schools do need an advisory program to help build relationships, particularly those middle schools that are larger in size. You can, when done properly, the advisory program can help identify struggling students early on and to minimize larger problems down the road. It can definitely help at-risk students because they're the ones that can fall behind easily and kind of throw their hands up and give up. Teacher training and buy-in is very important for the advisory program's success. If teachers aren't vested in it, don't believe in it, then their problems can develop. Just a reflection of this whole process. From all the literature reviews I read, a lot of them talked about teacher buy-in being important, administrators supporting teachers. Now, some issues that I thought of was certain teachers outperforming others as advisors. I suppose you probably get that in a school where Teachers can recommend certain parents can recommend students certain teachers as their advisor, son's advisor, or students can recommend a certain advisor. And usually, you know, in most schools, there's a core of teachers that can connect with the kids a lot easier, and those teachers sometimes are the more popular choices for the advisory program. So, something that I'm considering is how do I get those teachers who quote unquote not as popular um, buy into the advisory program, or get students to buy in to them being their advisor. I know I'm going to run into problems too with parents requesting probably, you know, that core of teachers that are that easily make connections with students, and dealing with that. And lastly, I hope that the advisory program doesn't affect too much teacher time prep. I know that teachers' main job is to teach the kids. With the advisory program, I'm hoping that um, supporting these at-risk students that generally take up a lot of teachers' time in the classroom, fixing that a little bit better will even out with the amount of time that teachers will have to take on preparing and implementing the program of the advisory program. I received a lot of great feedback from my peers in this class, particularly on narrowing the scope of my investigation, um, providing more details in the advisory program, um, and just looking at the different PowerPoints and seeing um, how they processed and arranged all their information. This is my reference list. And lastly, this has been a very much an eye-opening experience. I enjoyed um, really learning more about the advisory program, and really am excited to present this to my boss to see if this is something that we can build into our schedule moving forward, because I think it's worthwhile. I think it only helps kids, and that's what we're in the business to do, is helping kids. And I look forward to presenting this and seeing where we go from there. Thank you very much.